Aye.
Okay. Passes. Okay. 6.5.
6.5.
Michael V. Hansen, LLC.
I'd like to make a motion to terminate for convenience the contract with Michael V. Hansen Consulting LLC as noted in section 7 of the contract and direct the city administrator to appoint the most senior length of service full-time paid
Point of
paramedic
order.
interim.
Point of order. Call.
No, that's, number one, I would consult the city attorney, and the city attorney gave you an opinion and said that I lawfully signed that contract. So I would recommend that before we get into any type of possible breach, because it is a contract. So that's up to council. So if you want to proceed, it's you.
Yeah.
I would second that motion.
Point of order has been raised in the action of that motion.
So does it need to be tabled?
No.
So, Mayor, you are, the point of
It's
order
just-
goes to you, so it's up to you to decide if you accept the point of order or not. And
Yes, I accept the point of order and it's done.
It's done.
Well, this is done for now.
And I'm more than, my office is open, so.
6.6,
Problem with that is
requesting.
that's a violation of the open meeting law, so we're gonna
No,
discuss
no,
it, we need
no.
to discuss it now.
No, no.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
singularly. I'm in singularly, because he.
No, but if we all wanna talk about it together, this is the place to do
Yeah,
it.
well, again, I would recommend you talk to the city attorney before we do that.
Well, you can recommend it if they want to discuss it, they can discuss it.
Yeah.
It's a recommendation, not an order.
Please. Can't even hear ourselves think up here. Okay.
That's what we know.
So, you know, Paul has brought forward a concern, has cited where in the contract he can ask this to be terminated. I know you're shaking your head, and I understand that. But as a council, my question here is, as far as procedure and process, Councilman Gobelman, you seem to know a lot about this, is how do we discuss it? And I'm giving you a compliment.
Okay.
How do we then discuss this if we can't discuss this?
So the contract is legally binding between the city administrator and Michael Hansen LLC.
On behalf of.
On behalf
of the
of
city.
this council. So you guys correct me if I'm wrong, the correct way to approach this is that we can create a motion that further review of the violation of a section of the contract. Right? We can't terminate the contract. We can recommend a review of the parts of the contract that have been noted as a violation, and then make a recommendation on where to go from there.
So, I'm not sure I agree with you, but I know where you're going with that.
No, I'm going with this is that we need to stay within the terms and conditions of the contract.
So,
Well, so the city administrator entered into an agreement, a binding agreement, with the fire chief on our behalf, right? For the count of the city. And we are the city, we're the government of the city. So if we don't like the agreement that you struck, our beef is with you, and if we want to talk about our beef with you, then this is the forum to do it. Because if we talk about it amongst ourselves, we're in violation of the open meeting law.
No, but we can talk about it with him in executive session. And
We could do that.
Reach a place of agreement and then come back in the public.
In fact, I think that's the appropriate way, because it's a matter of employment.
Yes.
I don't know that we can take it into executive
he's
session.
done it anyway.
No, it's with an LLC. It's with a company, not a person.
well, this is ridiculous, there's a way that we can discuss this.
So one of the issues at hand is, again, we may, I'm gonna say we may or may not like the attorney's opinion. So that's something y'all need to work through with the attorney before we go towards this contract.
No, I disagree. The attorney's opinion is an attorney's opinion. It is not a yay or a nay. And we as a council hold the authority to create law, regulation, and statute for our city. We can choose to follow his recommendation or not. And I know, you just really tried. However, we have an obligation to review contracts, and I understand that it is your obligation to create contracts, but you do it on behalf of the council. Therefore, if we see something that we want to review, we should be able to review it. Does everyone in the council have a copy of the contract?
Yeah.
Okay, no, you don't. Well, that would be the first place to go.
Hey, I emailed it to all of you within the last week. Check your email.
So, and I know sorry, my apologies. But I want to be able to lay this to rest at some point. We don't want to brush it under the table, and we don't want to ignore it. This is important.
You're right, and that's not the point I'm making.
And the point you're making is it needs...
that this is a contract between two companies.
Correct.
Right, and the termination of that said contract needs to be based on non-delivery of service stated in the contract.
What is the section then that you referred to, Paul?
Section 7.
And what does that say? Thank you.
Mayor, we have a handbook. Would it be appropriate to receive those comments?
Let's see what Paul says.
Folks, let's let Paul finish.
Termination for convenience. Either party may terminate this contract at any time for any reason upon 30 days written notice to others. Upon termination, contractor shall be entitled to payment on a prorated basis for the period of month work prior to termination.
That's what we're putting about it.
It is the parties who signed the contract, so we would be making a recommendation to the city administrator to end the contract with appropriate notice.
Would we
Not
be
a
making a
recommendation,
direction?
a direction.
So, one thing, so if you do this, that's fine. However, in regards to appointment of then replacement, that is still under me, and I decide on who will fill that position if you choose to go down this road. So that's under the charter. It's I select all employees and supervise. So like I said, I would recommend, your city attorney at least once, and then nothing says.
Well, I want to talk about that too. I want to recognize,
Excuse me?
may I recognize the hand in the back?
Okay, Jim?
My question is to Louis is that if the city administrator has a signing authority of $10,000 without approval of the council, how do you get to sign a $90,000 contract?
So in this particular case, the opinion was that he was an appointee of mine, is what the opinion stated, is that he was an appointee of the city administrator. I am the person supervising him.
Whose opinion?
It's a contract, though.
And again, there's an opinion given, and in the opinion it stated that I couldn't sign bonds, capital outlay projects like water project, big stuff. However, he did say that there was nothing in the charter or anywhere that stated that what method I used to appoint my appointees. And that could be a contract.
So I just have a question.
Name and
I'm
address.
Christy Ball. I live at 76482 Cedar Street, Oakridge. You stated earlier that you got advice from the lawyer that turned out to be the wrong advice. that he came to you later and said, my advice was wrong about the bullet point. What if he's wrong about this advice?
Can I answer that? He didn't say that he was wrong. He just, the lawyer never answered his questions.
No, he said earlier, the lawyer gave the advice that you guys could release bullet points, but then the lawyer later, after your comments to the register guard, the lawyer then contacted Louis and said that that was not true.
No, he contacted the mayor as well.
Oh, so the lawyer contacted you yourself and said that it's not true?
Yes.
Okay, so if he made that mistake once, what's to say he didn't make that mistake with this advice?
I don't know.
That's a good point. So I think something that needs to be recognized, if the mayor did make a mistake and we followed his advice, we are still protected because he is the one who made the mistake. So regardless of whether it was right or wrong, if we follow the advice from the legal authority for the city and it proves that it doesn't hold water in court, the city is still protected and he's on the hook.
Then my question would be,
Why are we using
does
an
the lawyer's
attorney?
advice supersede what the council votes? No.
No.
Okay.
The lawyer is an employee of the council.
My name is Stephen Ball, 76482 Cedar Street. According to the charter, the city council can sever this contract by a majority vote. And you can do that. You can do that, or you can also direct the city administrator to sever that contract. It's in the city charter. It says it right there. You can do either one.
Well, we can't do anything tonight because I.
It doesn't hold action.
Huh?
Motion was made.
So,
If a motion was made,
so
And he called the point of order.
Point of order.
So another counselor can make the motion.
Another counselor can make another motion that overrides the point of order that clearly states the pathway.
Recognize that Terry Short.
Jared? Sorry.
Sit here so long for that.
Several things came up. You were just on the fringes of having to have an executive meeting to resolve this, which would probably be more appropriate than an open forum like this. Then you could talk out all these issues in an executive session. My second thing is, I said it the last time, forcefully say it this time, you need to get the opinions from the lawyer in writing, about his letterhead. That way we don't have to kick it back to what he thought about. And if he's wrong, well, that's too bad. As Gary said, it's an opinion. You don't have to take it. So, I've been hearing this a lot, that the lawyer said this. I don't care what the lawyer said. Personally, you're paying him to give you an opinion. And if he gives you an opinion, you don't accept the opinion, that's okay.
Just a minute. I recognized him.
Bobby Spleedoff, 47587 Tuller Road. And that goes back to my original question, is I sit back and I hear the lawyer said this and the lawyer said that. Is it in writing anywhere?
yes. Yes, I got that opinion in writing, yes.
Okay, so both of them.
Well, the one about me signing, yes, I got it
Kathy.
in writing.
I just want to point out that this isn't a discussion about what the opinion was as to whether or not our city administrator has the right to do this contract or not. The discussion is the contract exists with the existing language that allows it to be terminated. The question here is, do we direct the city administrator to terminate that contract? Now, I agree. We are moving into an area that perhaps does need executive session. But however, we have been reminded repeatedly that Hanson Consulting is not an employee. Executive sessions are reserved for employees. But I would defer to Mr. Shorey because I have a great deal of respect for his knowledge. But this is a discussion of whether or not we're going to direct the city administrator to act upon the contract that exists in that area and terminate the contract. This isn't a discussion about whether or not he can or cannot sign a contract. That's for a later discussion when we revise the charter, which we have to do.
Josh?
I just had a question. Since we took the vote to the 30-day.
Point of order?
Point of order.
Yeah, nothing to do with that.
That's a different topic.
You understand? It's different.
Kevin?
Just one thing to clarify some confusion, because sometimes I actually get confused as well on this thing. We have two sets of attorneys. Well, technically the city has multiple sets of attorneys that do different things, but we have our city attorney and we have our insurance company attorney. You don't necessarily have to follow what the city attorney says. You can have a different opinion of that. But if you don't follow what the insurance company attorneys say, they cannot indemnify you and say, we are not covering you for any lawsuit or anything else. So there is a little bit difference with the insurance company attorneys, because we run into that with a lot of police liability. If I don't follow what the insurance company attorneys say, they're going to say, we are not covering you now because we told you to do this.
And we have an attorney to sue them.
And that's a good point, and I do understand that.
They have a pretty good contract that says we can get out of stuff if you don't do this.
So I'll make a motion to that this council meet in executive session with the insurance company attorney and the city attorney to determine a path forward that indemnifies liability of the city.
In this
To be scheduled when the legal
you want to
representation.
state what it's for?
To review the contract.
Hanson contract. Right.
Carl, this gentleman's had his hand up for a long time.
Say something?
Yes.
I'm Don Sivern, 76330 Rock Road. If I'm hearing this right, Louis saying that he entered into this contract with Hanson. He has the authority to do that. He can do it for them. He doesn't have to consult with them at all. And now we're going through this quagmire of whether or not we agree with that. I just want to say that even if the charter says you don't have to let them know, if you're doing something in their behalf, wouldn't common sense say you should let them know, here's what I want to do. I want to make this guy our fire chief intern or whatever. Don't you think that would be a good idea to bounce it off them first, even if the charter says you don't have to? Because then we're not in this quagmire of saying whether it's legit or not.
Okay, okay.
So I'd just like to point out that the notification for that contract was actually brought up in the budget committee, at which time this council is a part of that. So in the budget statement, it was originally brought up that he was entering into this contract, and in all subsequent budget meetings, we have been notified that he was still maintaining a contract with Michael Hanson.
So what you're telling me is you knew it all. You knew that he was doing it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
Done.
I disagree with that 138%. That contract initially was entered into 15 days after our former chief resigned. It was notified to council via email. There were no budget committee meetings in August of 2015. And then the contract was renewed when that first one ended after 6 months in February of 2016, at which time there was no budget committee meetings going on. That wouldn't have happened until April, May, or June. I'm not sure what year you're referring to as being notified, but I can assure you, no, that is absolutely wrong. And I've given you all the contracts that would prove it. Read them.
I think the city administrator's point is that under the current charter as it exists now, it's his job, and he has the authority to enter into contracts such as the one with Michael P. Hanson, and so probably it would have been prudent for Louis to talk to us about it, but I don't think it was required.
The motion that was put up, this is all going around there.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about that because it has a point of order.
Okay, so what happens to my
There's a
motion?
current motion before this council that's. Did somebody second?
I second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second.
To do what?
To convene an executive session with legal representation of the city
And insurance.
and the insurance and the city attorney to define the appropriate way forward to amicably end this contract.
Did you get that?
It's on the.
Well, it needs to be read back. We need to read it back. So you're gonna have to say it again because I want it precise.
Say it again, Kevin.
Can we do
So,
that?
okay, so I make a motion that this council enter into an executive session at such time as schedule will allow both sets of attorneys to be present, those from the insurance company and those that are the legal entity for the city, to review the appropriate path forward that limits the city's incurred liability with ending the contract with Michael V. Hansen LLC.
Second, yeah. Which I can't do, so I didn't. I thought Josh. Did Josh second?
Josh did
you
second it.
second it? My
Yes.
apologies.
Is she good?
Yes, you did. Okay.
Call for the vote.
Councilor Wilson,
Nay.
Councilor Holston,
Aye.
Councilor Carl,
Aye.
Councilor Goldman,
Aye.
Councilor McMillan,
Aye.
Mayor Rowland.
Aye. Requesting something of the policies and procedures. I didn't quite hear everything.
This is just a review of the motion that was made at the last meeting, to do an administrative review.